care about money. It's
Yeah.
winning is all he cares about. So like he went broke keeping Tesla afloat. He was couch surfing for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was busted. He had no money. He'd spent everything. And to him, it's not about the money. It's about winning.
Yep, yep.
He's like,
He's like a gambler, is what Grizz was saying there. That was the True North Eager Beaver podcast. In my humble opinion, the best podcast north of the border. Ha! No, they're a delightful crew. Link is in the description. Check them out. They're a lot of fun. That's with Paul and Doug, a.k.a. Eager Beaver and Mr. Grizzly. They are a fantastic stream. And if you're like me, and you grew up in a place where it's not easy to get the facts about how other countries are getting on, that is a great way to get started. Boy howdy. This is going to be a slightly abridged second show. I can only apologize. We got a couple of days coming up. And I gotta be ready for it. Let me talk about something somber though, so I can acknowledge that it happened, and let you know that your old pal Jake didn't forget about it. We're dealing with terrorism in the United States, and it is caused by stochastic terrorists encouraging lone wolf terrorists to act. We've had consequences for that up and down. The most recent of which that I am aware of was a woman who was murdered simply for flying a gay pride flag. So, we will deal with that. I want you to know that hasn't been missed. We're going to discuss that. But we're not going to discuss it on the show tonight because I don't want that to just be in the news segment. We can't just let that go. Something has to be done, and I need to come to you with a realistic plan about it. That's where we are. It's your old pal Jake looking for a realistic plan for handling this. But in my humble opinion, enough is enough. And as a people, we need to take responsibility for the fact that it should never have gotten to this point to begin with. To be continued, in other words. With that bit of dour news out of the way, let's get to the show proper and say hello. Wicked Foxy Dragon, how are you? Good to see you. Better rest up. Yeah, that will be the plan. My dogs are goth. Bob and Doug McKenzie were royalty up here. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And the origin of about 1 out of every 3 belly laughs I had growing up. They are utter deers. Jess Rush, hoser. Take off, you hoser. Fair enough. The anti-corporatists, yeah, but it would have been funny if the joke was that they were stealing their names from there. Yeah, I would also have enjoyed that. Jess Rush, what's up? Wireless Mike, the anti-corporatist, good to see y'all. What were the names of the brothers in the movie? Oh, yeah, from SCTV. You guys are ahead of me on this. That's why I shouldn't scroll up. And my giant lips phone is getting teased. Hey, if you want to understand that bit of chicanery, that's why you got to work your way up to the Senate. Yes, indeed. That's the live show, baby. Let's get to the news. There is that was not an accidental intro by our friends at the True North Eager Beaver podcast. Vosh recently discussed some moves Elon Musk is planning on making that I feel might have some consequences electorally, believe it or not, coming up. Let me set this up. There it is. There it is. Let's do a segment together. Assuming I find the button A. There we go. Well, well-known internet beard haver, Vosh, recently did a segment on Elon Musk's latest moves on Twitter. I thought his take on it was interesting. Popping this in the news section because, this is one to watch, I suppose. But it hadn't occurred to me why Elon Musk is making the changes that he says he's going to make on Twitter. Or it maybe even not. Let's set aside Musk's actual motivations and just say what effects those changes might have. So to give credit where it's due, here's Vosh breaking it down.
This seems like a relatively trivial thing, but I'm framing this as an Elon Musk thing, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Twitter as a whole. So another change apparently is going to be rolled out soon on Twitter. Of course, Elon Musk wants to remove the block feature, a suggestion literally nobody likes. Will he do it? Will he be able to do it even? I don't know. He's gotten away with a lot in the past, and he's certainly not immune to making catastrophically bad decisions. But we're getting a new one. A new, maybe even wackier one. Okay? From X News Daily. News. Twitter is changing how news links show up on the timeline. It will strip out the headline/text, so links only display an article's lead image. And then Elon says, "This is coming from me directly. Will greatly improve the aesthetics." So this seems relatively minor, but it's actually much more psychotic than you might think. See, most people do not look past the article. Most people, past the article headline. Most people just look at the headline. In a lot of cases, I would argue that this is fine. A lot of article headlines are essentially self-explanatory, or they refer to basic rudimentary events that can be summed up in a sentence or two. And then if you want to learn more, you can read the article. That's cool. That's fine. Here's an example, just so you guys understand what this would look like. This is an article, Matt Binder's posting it here, talking about how a significant portion of Elon Musk's followers are bots. Millions and millions of new inactive accounts with no followers, no engagement, just following Elon to increase his follow numbers. Not surprising. Now, you'll notice that underneath the image, if you're familiar with Twitter, you've seen this, you have the website it comes from, you have what is determined to be the title based on the algorithm used. So it has a program that'll, okay, like what here is the title? Well, this is the big bold thing right here, so that must be the title. And then it has the subheader right beneath it. You might notice something about the system, that it's perfect. This is perfect. If you're linking an article to have the head image as the grab, the website it's from, the title and the subheader, this can't be improved upon. I literally mean it. It's
Just to be clear, a lot of times when Vosh says something like that, he's exaggerating to make a point. When he's saying this cannot be improved upon, it's not as though it's physically impossible to make a better system of displaying a yada yada yada. He's at least my interpretation of what he's saying here is it's a great way. It's to keep things to present part of an article, to have a little sample. It's the correct sample size to hand out at the store to see if you want to look at the rest of the article. And you might only be changing that if you are not interested in the audience experience, but are interested in something else. He's got theories. Let's check them out.
Seriously, this is the best you can do. If you add any more information, then you're basically just like asking a program to clip out portions of an article to show, and you're bloating the image, which isn't good. If you take less away, or if you take any of this away, then you're reducing the amount of valuable information. This is critical. Elon wants to take this away. Elon wants to take this away so all you see is the image. But what does this image mean? Well, on its own, not very much. It's just a stylized image of Elon Musk surrounded by empty follower accounts. And what's more, no article is going to have like YouTube thumbnail style titles present in their image, because Twitter is the only program that's going to have this change. Like, it's not like YouTube or whatever. People aren't going to go, oh, okay, so all I have to add is on the image, Mashable.com, Elon Musk's ex-follower account bloated by millions of views, inactive accounts we took close, blah, 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 blah. They're not going to do that. They're not going to. So you're just going to get the image, which means that now if you want to add information, all you have to do is just type it above. You can just type it right here, right? Well, yeah, so Matt Binder could type all of this. Out of curiosity, how many characters is this title and this subheader? Character counter, wordcounter.net, 188. So that's about half.
I was going to try to estimate it. I would have been wrong. So, another thing I want to add that I don't believe Vosh does is that any time that you say, well, people can just, and then fill in the blank. It's like, I'm not racist, but it's very unlikely, if not impossible, but very unlikely, that the next thing you're going to say is going to justify the first thing you said, is going to line up with that. So if you're saying, oh, but they can just, but you're taking away something that required no energy before, now you're requiring energy of some sort, typing this or copy pasting that, you're going to cut down on the efficiency of the last system used, because it was done already. So there is simply no way that somebody making the argument that you could just copy paste the title into the whatever. There's simply no way that argument is going to hold up when applied to the millions of people that yet use this program. Although I understand that they're dropping like flies, but still, it's worth noting. Let's toss it in there.
Half of the total amount of tweet that you can do dedicated entirely to replicating the information that's already present based on how Twitter works currently. But I tell you what's going to happen, folks. I tell you why this is being done. Elon Musk says it's for the aesthetics. It's obviously.
My dogs are goth with the very kind $10 super chat. Thank you so much. And a member. Welcome to the Friends of Doris, my friend. That is fantastic. We're delighted to have you. Thank you for joining. I'm tickled.
Not. This is being done deliberately to spread misinformation. You know how the right, especially everyone to an extent, but mostly the right, will post a article screenshot and then lie about its title or its contents? Because I've seen that happen all the time. They'll take a screenshot of like a title or of an image or something, and they'll post it and they'll go, in this article, the left advocates for raping 5 billion children a second. And then if you actually like Google search the article and look it up, you will find that they always lie every single time. Without exception, every single time they lie, every time. That's why it's generally considered to be a lot more like trustworthy to link the article directly rather than screenshot it, right? Because if somebody screenshots it, the only way to look at the article is by Googling the article title if presented, and that's kind of a pain, and a lot of people aren't going to do that. I don't blame people in a world where they're being shown so much information all the time for taking things at face value sometimes. They see a screenshot of an article, it looks legit, they're like, oh, okay, and then they move on. Not everyone is going to, every single time, go like, well, I have to investigate this by Googling and searching it back and blah, blah, blah. This is just stripping metadata in an effort to make information more ambiguous. And you're right, KCJ from LI, we're coming up on election year. We're just a little bit more than a year away from the election of our next president. As we know from back in 2020, information misinfo was a huge part of the game plan for the right. Months
Yeah, that was the part that made me think, "Ooh, I better show this to the crew." um, that's not good. It's not good. And by the way, I didn't read the super chat. I should do that. Uh, it was saying, "Thanks for working so hard for us." And let me tell you, put a heart right there. My absolute pleasure. Genuinely, I enjoy working for you and with you. And back to it, Vosh has a very good point, which is this system that Elon Musk is saying he's going to make a part of Twitter is it seems like a small change, but it's a breeding ground for misinformation. Think of all the people that won't even bother clicking on an article before they believe it when it's got a headline and a subheading. They'll just take the opinion of the person presenting the article as fact. Now, if you do that once or twice, if you do that occasionally, if it's a trusted source, okay, it's not the end of the world. But there is a culture of people out there that numbers in the millions who are simply looking for what they want to hear and do not think for a moment that the things that they want to hear might not be true. So whether Elon Musk is intending to do this or not, with the presidential race coming up, is irrelevant. It seems like a pretty predictable consequence that misinformation is going to spread more via Twitter. Or I should say X.com. Maybe he's done a favor by renaming it so we can be crystal clear that this is a unreliable news source. Let Vosh break it down a little bit more. I think he had a good point coming up here.
Months and months of active, propagated, systemized misinformation pushed through dozens of outlets in a coordinated fashion. They knew they were lying. We know they knew they were lying. And they coordinated it. It's a big open secret. Now, at the time, Twitter did have some protections in place to prevent the spread of election misinfo. So did YouTube, but not much. Not really. I think YouTube banned for a time, like just some kinds of outright lying. There was some COVID-related stuff people banned outright lying about. But for the most part, people lied all the time on these platforms, and it just was there or was there not misinformation spread on Twitter back in 2020 before Elon Musk had it. Of course there was, obviously. But now there's going to be a lot more. Because now, whenever a person links an article, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see a fucking image. Which begs the question, why would somebody link an article? Well, maybe somebody might link an article if they, directly want to generate site traffic. Like, say, if they run the website. But if they just want to spread information, why would they link the article when they could just screenshot it? If you wanted to get this basic message out, Elon Musk's Twitter follower count bloated by millions of new inactive accounts, which would you rather do? Post the article link and it just be this image, or screenshot this and post it? I know what I'd rather do, because if I just posted the article link and all it showed was the image, I would just have people have to trust me. I would have to say, hey, here's an article talking about how Elon Musk has bloated his follower count. Click on this image to find out more. Or I could just screenshot this and post that, and instantly all the metadata is back. But now we've lost the ability to just link to the article. And nobody posts a screenshot of an article while also linking to the article, because that would double show the image. Or do you think people are going to screenshot the title and subheader and then have the link to the article? So it's like they're just adding in the metadata as a shared image. You could quote the article in the tweet. Yeah, but that doesn't get nearly as much engagement as words that are in an image or kept in like the metadata or the UI of Twitter itself. People, when they look at articles being linked, tend to look at the metadata contained within the article link and not the words themselves. You know this is true. What immediately draws your eye in this? Is it this stuff at the top? No, it's not. And there's data to prove it. For the most part, people look down to this sleek, round-edged border box containing an image designed by a graphic designer and this nice, clean metadata right there. People tend to look at this. They'll look at this too, but there's a bias. You guys understand what I'm talking about here, right? I don't know whether Elon is doing this like purely for the chaos god misinfo clout or whatever, or if it's like part of an advertiser bid where there's an effort being made to sort of allow for a wider range of misinformation to benefit certain types of advertisers. I don't know if he wants to like curtail the amount of like negative news about him. Guys, it's Elon Musk. For all we know, he literally just didn't like this tweet from Matt Binder. That with him, that is a real possibility. I'm not joking. I'm not being hyperbolic. He might have literally seen this and thought, yeah, I would rather it just be this image of me and not this metadata down here. It will improve the aesthetics.
little stick at the end there. I think the larger conversation to have is, why does one single person have so much ability to sway the way an election is going to go? How does one person have an ability to do all that damage? I think Vosh was dead on with his assessment at the end there. Elon Musk is an unstable person. At least he's a, let's call him this. He is a whimsical person. He's a flighty person. He's a bit of a flaky person. Again, glass houses. But I don't control Twitter. X.com, excuse me. I don't control X.com. I'm not going to dead name even in this case. I don't control that. And I suppose the larger question we should be asking ourselves is, should anybody, once a social media company reaches a certain number of users, do we change the structure of it? I honestly don't know the answer to that. What do we do to make sure there are competitors of equivalent means to run it better, to do a better job, to not spread these things? Or do we go the other way? Instead of saying let's make sure this forest is planted on fertile ground, do we instead say let's make sure this grass is mowed, and just punish the hell out of people that allow such things on their platform? This is, at the end of the day, a private business. And the things we establish with the big guys, they might affect the little guys. They might affect new social media companies and so on and so forth. They might affect somebody's online restaurant delivery business, whatever. But also recall that in brick and mortar stores, we have different rules based on weight class. And I start to wonder if we should not have that here. Start to wonder if we shouldn't have a whole branch of law enforcement dedicated specifically to holding major social media companies to account. The amount I saw right-wingers howl over the Biden campaign, just asking for revenge porn to be taken down of Hunter Biden, makes me think it's probably a good thing. They tend to have great instincts, believe it or not, in the right wing. They tend to have great instincts. It's just for when things are coming. It's just a shame that they always go in the wrong direction. Always. They are always looking for the next scam, and so they are also always looking to make it easier to do the next scam. So maybe we should be looking at the other side of that. But I don't know. It's something to mull over, and it's something I'm interested to hear what y'all had to say about. So let's talk about it. Wicked Foxy Dragon Unfortunately, we either allow government to interfere with the companies or we don't. We can't have it both ways. I wonder, though. I wonder if the size of the company should change that. I wonder at what point we are approaching monopoly laws. Can we say that Twitter is the same thing as Facebook, for example? Maybe, yeah, maybe. Can we? But how far does that go? Is is X.com the same thing as YouTube? You can share videos on both. Is X.com the same thing as MySpace, and so on and so forth? I don't know the answer, but I do think that there is a tendency with our current system to reverse the way we tend to look at things from the way we should. Which is to say, the big guys get all these breaks in the name of looking out for the little guy. But the little guys don't get the same breaks. For example, if you have a page on Facebook where you're suggesting that you do a bunch of illegal stuff, your page gets taken down and you suffer the consequences. But I do wonder, and I'm not saying this rhetorically. I mean, I'm genuinely turning this over, and my opinion on it changes every day. I do wonder if it should not be the other way. If it shouldn't be, no, the first person who's liable is the communications company, because they're such a big communications company, or this, that, or the other thing. They have to be held, in other words, to a higher standard, and therefore they have to take on the responsibility of regulating the thing if they want to stay in business. And I think if we are not doing that, then we are ceding the idea of mass communications online from what it seems like we'd prefer the government to be in charge of. And we all vote on rules that it will have, and so on and so forth, to private companies for no reason. But again, I'm somewhat lost on that, because tomorrow I will feel the opposite. The anti-corporatist, hey, I don't know, but I would think we have to do something. But yeah, it's a sticky wicket. Exactly. Wouldn't you love to have enough of the horrible things that are beaten down on us dealt with, that we could actually take an extended amount of time to think about this sort of thing? It's why it's in the news section. As of now, we got other stuff to deal with. Wicked Foxy Dragon, thin lines. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Wicked Foxy Dragon, but who gets to decide? And my dogs are goth saying, good point, Foxy. Yeah, it's a very good point. I don't know. Unfriendly atheists, they're always paranoid. True. Wireless Mike, we have regulation for restaurants. We should have regulation for everything we ingest, including social media. That's I agree. I just agree. I think the equivalent of an FDA, but for algorithms, is necessary. And it's going to be boring as sin. But that also tells me that it's important. I think we are approaching those days. And I will also say, whatever the answer is, if it's the right one, it shouldn't terrify us. If the downside to it is so obvious that a significant group of us is warning about it, then we've probably done wrong. I would say whatever it has, probably whatever we have as far as regulation goes, probably will require us not to only rely on that system until we know it works. So, for example, and I have talked about this before, but let me be clear, I'm not advocating for it because I still don't know, because we haven't had time to think about it. But like a government social media platform, I absolutely think that that would not swallow up all the other social media platforms. I think it would be less fun to use and therefore used much less. But if you genuinely were concerned about being able to speak freely, then the only, on social media, truly freely, then the only answer is you get a social media platform run by the government, they're the ones who have the obligation to respect free speech. This is just interesting, though, and I'm no longer going to be adding anything. So I'll move it along. Who gets to decide, says Wicked Foxy Dragon, what is facts and what is disinformation? It's a good point. However, there are certain things which are pretty easy to address, like Hunter Biden, Burisma allegations, saying that X person won the slam dunk contest at this location when in fact at the time they were on the other side of the earth and there's pictures to prove it. Like, though, I realize you're not asking the what is disinformation, but the who. The who is just a responsible person who can be fired by the general public and hence a government official. But it's not as immediately, and again, I'm quite sure. In fact, we'll talk about it more later because I'm sure I'm missing things live, and I do have to move it along because there is a segment that is immediately useful that we should get to. Oof. Richard Hinckley also has a good response. I'm sorry. I'm willfully not reading it because I will be engaged and I will try to talk about it more. I'm going. It's the next segment. We're doing it. Uh-oh. Well, I've begun playing something. Oh. Okay. There we go. All right. Now vi switch. Beau of the Fifth Column is returning to the channel because he has a tendency to talk about stuff like this. Let's get to it. How can Kevin McCarthy avoid the coming disaster in the House, if he has any desire to at all? We need to agree once again to pay our damn bills and to assign spending here and there. And it's going to be a giant fiasco when it really does not need to be. Here's how we can avoid it. Oh, surprise, surprise. It was actually this the whole time.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Beau again. So
Howdy, Beau.
today we are going to talk about the U.S. House of Representatives, the need for a short-term budget for the United States, and McCarthy, and how McCarthy is facing a problem that has basically been an issue for him the entire time, and how maybe this time he can actually handle it. Okay, so the U.S. needs a short-term budget, a stopgap. Why? Because the long-term process, well, it broke down. Why? Because while McCarthy is Speaker of the House, he doesn't really have a whole lot of influence. He can't develop a consensus. So the process does not function well. So they need a short-term solution. There are divisions within the Republican Party. We've talked about it recently when it came to Ukraine. The far-right faction of the Republican Party, the furthest right faction of the Republican Party, they've unveiled a list of demands and said if we don't get what we want, we're not going to vote for this short-term budget. Okay. Now, this is the exact dynamic that has led to McCarthy having, let's be polite, a less than effective period as Speaker. Okay? How does this process normally work? What would normally happen?
I'll just translate that into much less than polite. He's looked like a substitute teacher on their first day in a rowdy classroom. That was more polite. He's a bitch.
The House, well, it puts up their version. They're Republican controlled. The Senate puts up their version. They're currently controlled by the Democratic Party. And then the two versions get kind of worked out. That's the normal process. So no matter what.
I'm so sorry. I had to jump on. Mrs. Thompson, if you're somehow watching and you heard that, I didn't mean it. I refuse to back it up. I withdraw the comment. It was a sub that didn't F around. I shouldn't have said that.
Comes out of the House, it has to make it through the Democratic Party anyway. So if you have a faction of the Republican Party who is demanding a bunch of things that, let's be honest, they're non-starters, they're not things that are going to go anywhere, maybe you could alter the dynamic by simply working with the Democrats in the House, rather than waiting and negotiating it out with Democrats in the Senate. Do it in the House. Render that faction of the Republican Party irrelevant. Because let's remember, they're not actually concerned about governing. They're not concerned about policy. This is all about social media clicks, generating that outrage. If you render them irrelevant, well, then they can't get that. That caucus has, I want to say, 45 people in it. And I don't even think that half of them are really interested in the disruptions that caucus has become famous for. The votes are available from the Democratic side of the aisle. And let's be real, the negotiations that would occur, they're the same negotiations that would occur between the House and the Senate. So just do it there, and you bypass them. They lose all of their leverage. The far right, the super far right Republicans, they lose all of their leverage if that occurs. These are the people that are making McCarthy look so ineffective. And he has a method.
I did just want to jump in to say this is likely a moment where we can make politics a little more honest. This is where the first inklings of the party switch might manifest. Because he's getting, McCarthy is sick to death of getting bullied by the freshmen. He's put in his time, and it wouldn't surprise me to find out that he's willing to make a deal. Play that last bit.
These are the people that are making McCarthy look so ineffective. All of their leverage if that occurs. These are the people.
Yeah, the leverage thing. Oh, I can't do that to Bo.
Has a.
All right. With the leverage thing, I'll let you in on a little secret. At least it's what I think is going on. I don't think they want the leverage. I'm talking Matt Gaetz. I'm talking Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. I know MTG's been on McCarthy's side because of Game of Thrones style, whatever. But I don't think they want that. They don't know how to run a government. They have no idea how they're supposed to do the actual job. They've signed up only for personal gain. And the actual, gross running of the government, they don't want to do that. They just know they're supposed to complain about it no matter what happens. Unless they do something genuinely destructive, in which case they're supposed to brag about it. And unless they get a lot of people harmed, all they're supposed to do is complain. So they would love They wouldn't, like, structurally, they wouldn't do much to try to stop this. They might do stunts. They love doing stunts. They might they might try to start up a Brooks Brothers riot, but unlike that, they wouldn't actually accomplish much of anything, which would be their greatest dream come true. So bear that in mind. We might have support all over for this, even if they've got to keep up KFAB.
A method of removing their leverage. He just has to use it. He just has to say, no, I'm going to put the country over somebody's Twitter following, which is really what this boils down to at this point. But since I don't know that that would actually be motivation for McCarthy, he could put his own political career over somebody else's Twitter following. That seems like the logical move. The votes are available for a sensible stopgap without that caucus, without the entirety of that caucus, much less the fact that most of them are not committed to these demands. So it seems like the smart move. If he doesn't, this faction of the Republican Party will continue to stop him from being able to do anything. As it stands, he is destined to go down as one of the worst speakers of the House in American history. This is how he can change that. If he doesn't, it will continue to go on. They will continue to throw their temper tantrums and stomp their feet, get their clicks, and that's it.
I just saw that comment as well. Kevin McCarthy, where was it? Looks like a Dick Tracy villain. His face looks like it's made of rubber. Yes. Oh, God. They look like, I don't remember who Al Pacino was playing when they did the movie with Warren Beatty, but yes, that's dead on. And now I cannot unsee it. Well spotted. So look, what can you do if you have let's try this again. If you live in a purple district, encourage your representative to make a deal in the House. That's simple. Make sure they know that you know it's possible. Extend a hand. If they're assuming that you'll hate it for some reason, make sure they know you won't. It's usually not good news when you have a Republican of any shade being your voice in the government, because they have then legally your permission to rob you. But in this case, it can be of use. We can take advantage of that fact. If you've got a purple Republican or even a purple Democrat in your district, just make sure you know that, or they know that you are open to that idea of making a deal in the House. Why? Because we don't want drama. Nobody wants drama. There's no need for it. Didn't used to be drama over these sorts of things. We'd like to go back to that, please, because we have genuine, true issues that need to be dealt with. And this will make no one look good. And the Democrats are really only the party in power when it comes to the Senate and the White House. In the House, the party in power, technically, that's the Republicans, if you call what they do exerting power, as opposed to having various shades of temper tantrum. But nobody will benefit from a ugly fight over nothing. So contact your representatives. Let them know. Fine to make a deal. See what y'all have to say, aside from the Dick Tracy comment. Oh, my dogs are goth. Remember when good smells in cartoons would rise the character up and bring them to the smell? Yes, indeed. I 100% recall that. I feel like I've experienced that. Boy, you get some pancakes or some just cakes going, and I'm right there. Pepperidge Wireless Mike with the reference. Pepperidge Farm remembers. Yes, indeed. Oh. Okay. So, my anti-corporatist deleted. Yeah, anti-corporatist and I are birds of a very similar feather. I suspect that both of us like to obsess over the details of what we write, and are more than happy to take it back or delete it, as perhaps more strongly represented by my utter chickening out of dunking on substitute teachers when I remembered one might come tan my hide. Oh, God. Mars Falcon, help your local purple person get all 6 Infinity Stones and snap a very specific half of this country away. Or at least just take the devil out of them, you know? I would, sometimes I wish I were a true believer in whatever spirituality allowed me to slap someone on the head and say, devil, come out. I want to go to folks that fly the Confederate flag for any reason and say, you've got Satan in your son and it's going to be gone. Oh, well. Folks, I had a blast hanging out with you today. We are going to be, come on, we're going to be live streaming the debates and the court shenanigans that are coming up tomorrow and the day after. I'm so excited. It's going to be a blast. I can't think of anybody I would rather hang out with more than y'all. Thanks for stopping by. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for what you can do. My name's Jake.